Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa sallam wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has given us this opportunity to be counted amongst the Ibadur Rahman who are fortunate and privileged to witness Ramadan from its beginning to this particular important hour, which makes Ramadan 27th in the month, in this particular blessed month, for the faithful ones who are observing it, as well as the faithful ones who, for one reason or the other, not because of their own making, they are unable to observe it. We pray Allah accept our ibadat from us, He accept our siyam from us, and the one we want to also do this particular time, we also pray that may Allah, guide our thoughts and equally guide the way we are going to present it and make whatever we are saying to be much beneficial to the people listening or watching, more than the way the speaker is going to convey it. And may He make it one of our, blessings and grace here in the hereafter. I want to also commend the organizers of this program for putting these particular events into place, especially, coinciding with the month of Ramadan and with the difficulties people are going through. Having said that, let me mention briefly to us that I tried as much as possible within the shortest possible time I had to prepare this, paper by looking at this issue from majorly, 9 perspectives. The 10th perspective will just be my conclusion. And I will try as much as possible, to try to compress whatever I'm going to convey, to my listening audience and people who are watching me. I'm going to start with the preamble, after which we will also go to the introduction. Then the third aspect will be to look at the maqasid al-sharia on this particular subject matter. And then why this topic? Why as the organizers chosen this topic? Then we also look at some of the factors that enhances, small businesses, micro businesses, medium-sized, businesses in our own time. Then we now move to look at the impact of COVID-19 on the ecosystem. Then we now come down to look at what is the role of Islamic finance. And again, we also look at the pillars from the financial institutions. And then we also look at the Islamic finance instruments as a way out of this quagmire that we find ourselves. And the last but not the least is to round up with my conclusions. Having said this, let us go back to the Quran. Let us look at Quran chapter 29 from verse 2 to verse 3. I'm sure most of us will be familiar with those verses in this particular chapter, where Allah Ba'da billahi minash shaitanir rajim says, Ahasiban nas an yutraku an yaqulu amanna wa hum la yuftanun. Those people, humanity, think that when Allah has created them and they always make this statement that we believe, they will be left alone without being tested by the Creator. Allah gave a response. He says, وَلَقَدْ فَتَحْنَا الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. That verily, verily, those who came before you were tested, and we shall also test you in order to know sincerely and truthfully whether that statement you utter from your mouth by saying we believe is indeed coming from you sincerely, or it is just a superficial statement of just belief on the tongue but not in the heart. Having said that, I also want to take us back to another verse of the Quran. Let us look at Quran chapter 21, Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 35. Allah says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Allah says, and we shall test you by evil and by good way of trial, and to us must you return. See, this particular, verse in this particular chapter, again, is corroborating what Allah has said in the previous chapter and verses that I recited. So is COVID-19 a trial from Allah? I will leave the answers for those watching me and those listening to me. Let us move further to examine what is the tafsir of this particular verse that I just recited in Quran chapter 21, verse 35. In the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, it's one of the most respected mufassirun that scholars will always want to quote and also make reference to his exegesis of the Quran. Ali bin Ubayd, Ali bin Abi Talha radiallahu anhu was reported to have made a statement from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. He says that statement that when Allah says وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ fitna, it means, and we shall test you with difficulties and with times of prosperity. That is, bishidda wa raha, with difficulties and prosperity. Not only that, wasiha was second, with health and with sickness. And not only that, wal-gina wal-fakir, we shall also test you with richness and with poverty. And he went further to say, wal-halal wal-haram. You will be tested with what is lawful and you will be tested with what is unlawful. And he says, وَالطَّاعَ وَمَعَصِيَّةً, tested with obedience to Allah and you will be tested with committing sins. And the last but not the least, he said, وَالْهُدَى وَالضَّلَالَ, you will be tested with guidance and misguidance. Then when he says, وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ, it means all of you, you'll be given the reward in accordance with the action or with the deed that you have carried out. That is the tafsir from Ibn Kathir. Let us look at the third verse from the Quran that I'm going to also draw our attention to. And that will be in Surah Al-Baqarah. That is Quran chapter 2, verse 155. Where Allah says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ, we are going to test you, certainly, in 5 areas. Number 1, shay'in min al-khawf, from fear. When this pandemic started in China, so many people were making sarcastic statements. Some, were even castigating China. Some were even saying it was because of the persecution they gave to the Muslims, in China. So many, speculations and so many theories and so many, conspiracy theories were going on and off. And by the time the thing started spreading and it came to Nigeria, fear gripped Nigerians. Allah said, we shall test you with fear. وَالْجُوعِ, with hunger. وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, loss of goods. وَالْأَنفُسِ, death. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, the fruit of your labors. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, Allah says, give glad tidings to those who persevere. So, for a Muslim, individual or group of individual or the community, and those who neither belonged to the Muslim faith or the Christian faith, one thing is certain here: the creator of the cosmos, the creator of human beings and the animals and the plants and the non-living things in this particular space we are occupying, has given us this statement of facts, and we are witnessing it in our own time, that it says it's going to try us in 5 different areas. By the time you look at those 5 different areas, there's none that we can eliminate from our own time. No thanks to COVID-19 that has visited us. Somebody was saying it jokingly, said this coronavirus is so arrogant, it's so pompous, that it will never visit you. It will wait where it wants to wait. That it is human beings that will go there, willingly or unwillingly, they will go there to go and visit him, and will not give them his own gift. So the best way you can also try to escape from this coronavirus is for you to make a resolution that I'm not going to visit you. So from this premise, it shows clearly that coronavirus that is ravaging the world today is one of the trials of Allah to humanity. The creator of Allah, the creator who created coronavirus is the only one who can again make coronavirus to also depart the way earlier viruses came and they went. That our iman must not be shaken. Having said that, let us now move to the second section. Remember, I said I have 9. Conclusion will be 10. Second section is the introduction. Let us just look at some data to be able to draw our minds to the importance of this topic. It is estimated by the World Bank report of 2020 that less than 24 million people will escape poverty due to COVID-19, while about 900 million people, especially in developing countries, of which our own country is one of them, will suffer more under this pandemic. Secondly, when we look at a worst-case scenario, the number of people living in poverty by the same World Bank report of 2020 is estimated to increase to between 429 to 580 million. These are very staggering figures. And this in turn is expected to increase global poverty to about 0.5 billion, which is about 8% of the total world population. Today, when we look at the world population, it's between 7.7 billion. And when you look at this data being thrown out, it is frightening. It is so disturbing. So we shouldn't take the issue of corona pandemic with a kid gloves. Another data reveals that the number of people living in poverty line today is, when we look at the poverty line using the United Nations dollar of $1.19 per day or less, will increase up to 1.2 million worldwide, leaving an increase of 434 million people. If we use this number of people living below poverty line on another measurements being used by Oxfam in their report of 2020, which is $5.50 per day or less, the total global population below poverty line will increase to 4 billion, which is an increase of 548 million. These data are very, very staggering and very disturbing, telling us that what we are witnessing currently is not a child's play in terms of the damage the pandemic is going to bring about globally, not just our own part of the world, but globally. In view of the aforementioned data, if you look at a worst-case scenario of the damage and the effects of COVID-19, the possibility that the current situation will get better is very, very slim. Therefore, I want to thank MULAN for its foresight by providing this platform to discuss this pandemic so that we can analyze its impacts and search for possible solutions from Islamic perspectives. This will take me to section 3, and that is to look at the maqasid of Sharia. What are the objectives of Sharia? There is no way we'll be talking about Islamic finance that will not talk about the maqasid of Sharia, the objective of Sharia. The objective of Sharia is to promote the welfare of human beings, irrespective of their social, political, economic, or religious leaning, and to protect and safeguard them in 5 areas. Number 1 is Hifzuddin, to protect and safeguard the religion. Number 2, Hifzun Nafs, to protect and safeguard human life, which this pandemic has taken. Unfortunately, some people have gone. Number 3, Hifzul Aqli, to protect the intellect, that is, to promote education, knowledge. Number 4, Hifzul Nas, to protect and safeguard family lines. And the last but not the least is Hifzul Mal, to protect, safeguard wealth. That is why the issue of Islamic finance and others, they are not sleeping. They are now relying on their oils, because everybody is working round the clock to ensure that the economy is not damaged, or the economy does not get worse than what it is currently experiencing. Because part of the maqasid of Sharia is to ensure that the wealth Allah has given to us, we don't allow it to go down the drain, no thanks to COVID-19. This will take me to section 4, which is why this topic. Why have we chosen this topic? Globally, Muslim professionals and businesses are subsets of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, which we call MSMEs, that have been badly affected by the impact of COVID-19. The worst of MSMEs are those in the developing countries, such as Nigeria, our country, our blessed country. This topic is not only apt, but it is very, very relevant for 2 major reasons. Number 1, firstly, the global village is in need of the MSMEs to survive, because they are responsible for more than 90% of economic activities and more than 40% of the GDP in developing countries. We can find this report in the OECD report of 2017. OECD is the acronym for Organizations for Economic Cooperation and Development. Secondly, the second reason why this topic is germane is that the MSMEs contribute more than 50% of total employment globally. So let us just pause for a while. If in developing countries, the micro, which are the individuals, the professionals, and then the small and medium-sized enterprises in developing countries like Nigeria and others contribute 90% to the GDP. And then, when again we look at the informal sector, if we add their contribution in the informal sector, it will increase the 40% or the 50% total population that they generate. So these are very, very important, data that we need to critically, look at for us to understand why this topic is very, very important. Now, let me move to the 5th section to look at factors that enhances the contributions of the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in global and digitalized economy. I will quickly just summarize because of time. We have a long way to go. Number 1, some of the factors that enhances their contributions: better access to market and knowledge network. Number 2, trade and investment opportunities stimulates the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises economic activities. Number 3, excellent physical and ICT infrastructure enables the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises to operate efficiently and accessing local and international markets at competitive costs. Number 4, digitalization offers new opportunities. Even currently, one of the most vibrant sector that has lots of opportunities are in the ICT technology, digitalizations. Number 5 is the ability to access strategic resources, which is very critical for startups, MSc, particularly in the area of finance. Before the advent of COVID-19, a study argued that the unmet financing needs of the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in developing countries like ours is a whopping sum of $5.2 trillion annually. Just look at that figure, $5.2 trillion annually before the advent of COVID-19 in terms of the unmet financing need of this particular sector. With the pandemic ravaging the world now, the financing gap is significantly expanding day by day, talk less of on annual basis. Let me move to section 6 to look at the impact of COVID-19 on the professionals, the individuals, and the small size and medium-sized enterprises. There is a study in an article written by Connelly, 2020, this particular year, just about 2 months ago, that reports that there are 4 impacts of COVID-19 on businesses. Number 1, global supply chain failures in production, manufacturing, and transformation processes is one problem. Look at what has happened to businesses. The supply chain have caught. It has failed because of restriction in traveling, because of lockdown everywhere in the world. So if there are failures in the supply chain globally, it means that the world is in trouble. Number 2, this results from indirect effects of illness in lost work by those who are sick or attending to the sick. Because of the pandemic, people that have families, that have relations that have been affected, have had to stop going to work to pay attention to their people so that they can get better. And these people are also on the trail of the supply chain. So this has equally contributed to the failure of the supply chain. Number 3, the indirect effects of large-scale confinement imposed by laws in several countries, Nigeria inclusive, like to quarantine, to travel restrictions, to lockdowns of restaurants and stores, closures of micro and small size, medium sized businesses have been locked down, among others. This has led to sharp drop of global and local demand. This is the biggest impact which this COVID-19 has triggered globally, Nigeria not excluded. The 4th impact is on the economic downturn. Because when supply chain has failed, and when people are not making money, and when there are restrictions, and when there are lockdowns, it is very economically sensible that people who are producing, who can no longer produce, and money is no longer coming in, will have no choice but to downsize. Which means due to the economic, due to the shock in demand, people can no longer earn income. So businesses and businessmen can no longer meet their obligations. So therefore, they are looking at the option of downsizing, meaning what? Laying off some workers. And this has both social and economic implications on the data that I gave at the beginning in terms of what is the, those living below poverty line. This is going to seriously affect majority of those living below 1.9 dollar per day in developing countries. Let me move quickly to section 7 to examine what are the feelers from the financial institutions vis-a-vis COVID-19. To say COVID-19 is impacting negatively on businesses is an understatement. Focus, therefore, should be made, especially by financial institutions, on asset liquidity, which will impact profitability. A decline, for instance, a decline in oil revenue globally, and Nigeria is also suffering from that, has affected the government of Nigeria spending on infrastructure. As part of government efforts to cushion the effects of the pandemic on the economy, government has given directive to the Central Bank of Nigeria, and similarly in other parts of the world, they have done the same, giving them a directive that all financial institutions should, as a matter of necessity and expediency, restructure all financial repayments for individuals and for the professional individual businessmen and for the micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, as well as corporate organizations, in order to give them a moratorium period to breathe and then to re-strategize, their own, mechanism of coming out of this COVID-19, quagmire that we have all found ourselves. Furthermore, the implication is that while the financial institutions may be affected adversely with zero cash flows, the individuals and the MSMEs too will be seriously affected. They will be seriously strangulated with the same, zero inflow, cash inflow. Because when you are no longer sure of what is coming in to your cover on a monthly basis, if the banks will be experiencing this, then you can imagine what the individuals and the micro, organizations too will also be experiencing, because it is a vicious cycle. Nobody will say it doesn't concern, it concerns all. To limit the liquidity risks, conventional financial institutions may not be disposed to giving facilities to individuals. These are some of the consequences. Financial institutions that are not very, solid in terms of liquidity, because of the fear that they have, fear that they may be experiencing zero, cash inflow, they may also want to restrict facilities that they may want to give out. This in turn will have a direct impact on profitability for those MSMEs. And the moment profitability, sets in, capital and equity will deteriorate. So when the question of profitability, fear for that sets in, capital and equity will start coming down. And the moment that happens, the way to go for shareholders with multiple institutions will be for them to start considering what they call consolidation. Another word for consolidation will be merger and acquisition. That is, smaller organizations that cannot survive the storm, that cannot breathe, may have to be acquired by bigger organizations so that they can strengthen one another. Having said that, let us quickly move to section 8 to now examine the role of Islamic finance. The role of Islamic finance. There is no doubt Islamic finance has a role to play in helping the micro, small, medium-sized enterprises to survive, and not only to survive, but for their own sustainability. The aftermath effects of COVID-19 may also create new opportunities for Islamic banking, particularly with the rise of socially responsible investing and the growing popularity of what is called environmental, social, and governance, ESG, by the United Nations. In today's business world, corporate organizations are taking environmental consideration into account when making investment decisions. 2, to lend weight to environmental, social, and governance, the United Nations supported the principles for responsible investment, PRI, with over 2,500 PRI signatories collectively represent more than 86.3 trillion US dollar. Just listen, 86.3 trillion US dollar in assets that are invested with ESG factors. These are reports that also can be found in the literature. Be that as it may, opportunities abound for Islamic banking to be optimistic because of the Islamic social finance instrument that can be utilized. According to the executive director of the Indonesia National Committee of Islamic Economy and Finance, Vench Rahajo, he said, and I quote, "We should maximize Islamic social finance," unquote, to combat the impact of COVID-19 on the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Furthermore, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, highlighted several Sharia-compliant tools that could be part of the, in quotes, Pandemic Response Plan, PRP, Pandemic Response Plan, PRP, including Zakat, Waqfu, Sukuk, among others. If time permits, we will explain all these instruments. In support of the position of UNDP, the senior advisor on Islamic finance at UNDP, by name Amir Rahim, pushed the argument further when he said, and I also quote, "We are convinced that Islamic finance can be part of the COVID-19 response through a range of financing instruments well suited for each stage," unquote. There is no doubt that Islamic finance has large market share in MSMEs and retail lending, according to the CEO of the Islamic Corporation for the Development, ICD, of the private sector, a branch of the Saudi-based Islamic Development Bank Group with over 55 countries, by name Ayman Amin Sajini. With this, with the current National Center for Disease Control Protocol and government imposing social distancing rules and shops and business outfits closing down, the impact of COVID-19 on MSEs and minimum salary earners will be very, very significant. What we are just seeing is just a tip of the iceberg, because nobody is sure when COVID-19 will eventually, become a thing of the past globally, not to talk of Nigeria. COVID-19 is considered one of the worst global crises in our modern times. The economic impact of this pandemic outweighs the impact of other events that were considered turning points in human history. Events like the Great Depression in the 30s that lasted for more than a decade, as well as the downturn of the economy in 2008 that lasted for about 3 years plus. With the case of this pandemic, this COVID-19, it may likely be much more than what we are experiencing. We only pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will quickly give us the way out and also protect us and protect our resources. Let me move to section 9 to now examine the Islamic finance instruments as a way out. One of the ways to improve the current situation occasioned by COVID-19 is for the wealthy Muslims. Just listen, wealthy Muslims, corporate bodies, and governments to embrace collaboration, solidarity, and cooperation. I repeat, to embrace solidarity, collaboration, and cooperation in order to help the poor, the individual businessmen, the individual professional businessmen, the micro and small, medium-sized enterprises, the vulnerable people, by offering them financing facilities to take them out of the woods. Islamic Social Finance, ISFI, are strategic instruments of banking products, services, and initiatives beyond conventional banking, which deliver social impacts and economic returns to nurture the unbanked to become bankable. The unbanked people are the people who are in the informal sectors. Their number are much more than those who are in the formal sector. These are the people greasing the wheel of the economy. So if care is not taken to provide a means to get them out of the wood, out of the quagmire in which they have found themselves today, like I said, what we are witnessing is just a tip of the iceberg. Like the Yoruba man will say, kese kese lashiri, kasa kasa, baba kese kese oshimbolono kolonkola wakoshowa. We are just seeing the premiere of what I would call not even reality, but life reality. But the real show will start enveloping by the time we know that so many things will have been damaged, which may take us more than a decade or two. That we pray Allah will give us a way out of this particular pandemic. Some of the Islamic finance instruments that we have, Islamic finance instruments that we have, or Islamic social finance instruments, can be categorized as a way out into 3 sections. We have the short term, then we have the medium term, then we have the long term. So I said some of the Islamic finance instruments, as well as Islamic social finance instruments, we are combining the two together, can be broken down into 3 parts as a way out. One, some of them will serve the purpose of immediate solution for these MSMEs, which is for the short term. Some will serve for the medium term, and then of course the one for the long term will also be there. And some of these instruments are, number 1, we have the Murabaha, we have Mudaraba, we have Musharaka, we have Wakala investment deposits, we have ijara, we have istisna, we have sukuk, we have takafu, among others. So let us now break them down. Which one falls into short term? Which one falls into medium term? Which are the ones we can use, for the long term? The one we can use for medium term, for immediate, the short term, includes the following: zakat. Zakat, we all know, is the third pillar of Islam, mentioned in about 28 or 30 places along with salats. It is due on Muslims who are wealthy. That is why I mentioned at the beginning that the way out is for the wealthy Muslims, for strong corporate bodies, and for governments to collaborate, to cooperate, and then to solidarize by providing solutions for the poorest of the poor, for the needy, for the weak, for the vulnerables, for these MSMEs that are going down the drain. In this respect, zakat, which is due on wealthy Muslims, in accordance with the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, "Khudh min agniyaihim wa turaddu ila fuqaraihim," is to be collected from the rich, from those who are wealthy amongst the people, and then to be redistributed to the poor in the community, to those who cannot withstand the pandemic that we are witnessing today. So it is very important that we must understand why is zakat, one of the Islamic social finance instruments, very relevant. What purpose does it have? It serves four purposes. One, spiritual purpose, to purify the zakat payer and the work of the zakat payer. To purify him from what? From greed. From greed. Because it is natural for man to always, as a rich man, the thinking of a rich man is to increase his wealth. He is never satisfied. He has an investment, he also wants to increase the investment portfolio. He wants to have more, he wants to have more, he wants to have more. That is why Quran 100, that is Surah Al-Takasul, explain, Al-Hakum Al-Takasul, Hatta Zurtumul Maqabir. People indulge in rivalry, mutual rivalry among themselves, in wealth accumulation, in money accumulation, and they will never get satisfied until Hatta Zurtumul Maqabir, until when they enter the grave. Quran tells us that that the love that the rich man has for wealth is very intense. Wow. Subhanallah. It's very intense. Can you hear me? Am I still audible? The host? All right. So Quran tells us that that the love that man has for wealth is very violent. And the love for wealth accumulation is always never depreciating. For Allah to have made zakat compulsory, one of the purpose is to do what? To purify the greediness in man. Two, the second purpose is it has a moral purpose, to cleanse man of the inordinate ambition that he has. Man, by his nature, has inordinate ambition. Somebody will be thinking, I want to be like Aliko Dangote. In fact, I want to have money more than Aliko Dangote. In fact, I want to have money combined, Aliko Dangote with Adeluga, with Fedola, with Siaku Rabi, combine all of them together, 4 in 1. I want to be richer than them. It is natural for man to always have this inordinate ambition. It is, zakat is one of the ways through which it can be regulated. That is why Allah provides, makes provisions in the Quran for things that can regulate this inordinate ambition. Thirdly, the third purpose of zakat is social purpose. Zakat wants the zakat payer to empathize, not to sympathize. to empathize with the poorest of the poor, with the vulnerable people, with the needy people, with those whose businesses are going down the drain. It is inconceivable for the rich people in the society today to keep watching, MSMEs going down the drain. People with smaller businesses who can no longer survive. People selling, recharge cards, 100 naira recharge cards. In this particular time, you can imagine the state in which they are going to find themselves with this lockdown. These are people who cannot survive. And again, government says they must, remain at home. They shouldn't go out because coronavirus doesn't go to visit people. People go to visit them, but they must survive. The survival instinct must be there. That is why they will always, go against the law because of survival instincts. But rather than going against the law, let the rich people in the community, let corporate bodies that are very buoyant, very strong, and government, both local government, state government, and the federal government, combine together. Let them solidarize together. Let them collaborate together. Then let them cooperate together to provide a way out. So socially here, the empathy, putting yourself in a position to start imagining what these people will be feeling, that you are the one feeling it, then you can really appreciate what they are going through. That is why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in one of the hadith that مَثَلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فِي تَوَادِئِهِمْ وَتَعَاطُفِهِمْ وَتَرَحُمِهِمْ كَمَثَلِ الْجَسَدِ الْوَاحِدِ. That the similitude of the believers in their compassion, in their affection, in their love to one another is like the entire body system. إِذَا اشْتَقَّ مِنْهُمْ عُضُوٌ فَدَعَ لَهُ سَائِرُ الْأَعْضَاءِ بِالسَّمْ وَالْهُمَةِ. If just one aspect of the body is afflicted with an ailment, the whole entire body will fall sick. If the wealthy ones and these corporate citizens that are very strong, have this empathy, then they can put down their zakat. They even don't need, they can even pay zakat of 2-3 years in advance because there are rulings that support that because of the exigency of the situation that we are in. To provide a leadway for the poorest of the poor in our community so that, everybody will have a sense of belonging. After all, if the poor people should all die, the rich people will be in trouble. They will be in trouble because a rich man cannot call a rich man to come and mend the roof of his house that is leaking. A rich man cannot call a rich man to come and repair his automobile that has faults. He will be in trouble. That is why Allah has created the world to be balanced, that you get some people who are very poor, you get some people who are very rich, but the rich should support the poor. It is not a favor the rich are doing the poor people. They are not doing them any favor. Because the Quran chapter 51, verse 19, make it very clear. It says, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. In your wealth are the right of Allah, and those who will come to ask you, and those who will not come to ask you. It is the responsibility of the zakat bodies and institutions to search for those who will not come out. They live in our community. That is why we have imams in our masajid. That's why we have umara, leaders in our community. They know our people. Let them compile the names of their people and then submit them to their corporate quarters for a way out. That is the third, purpose of zakat. The fourth purpose of zakat here is economic, purpose. Quran chapter 59, verse 7 is very clear. Allah says, the reason why we make zakat compulsory for the wealthy people in our community and for corporate bodies that are also zakatable and for government also is for them to ensure that the wealthy people do not appropriate to themselves alone the wealth of the whole community. Commonwealth. There is a study that also makes it very clear that less than 20% of the wealth of the whole world is being controlled. The wealth of the whole world is being controlled by less than 20% rich people. You can imagine, which means 80% of the people, their wealth is in the hands of less than 20%. And Allah brought about this zakat in order to, a mechanism for wealth redistribution in order to balance the community so that there will be social justice, there will be equity, there will be harmony, and there will be peace and progress in the community. Let me move quickly to the, further, the financing instrument for SMEs during COVID-19 economic empowerment, economic empowerment is also part of the reason why they must pay zakat. Like I said, they can pay, like now they can pay zakat for 2020, they can pay their zakat in advance for 2021, they can even pay in advance for 2022. Because the money is there to ensure that we create a balanced community, harmonious community, peaceful community. Should more than the 80% of the community will revolt against less than 20%, there's going to be crisis. There's going to be crisis. It will come to a stage where even the law enforcement agencies might not even be in a position to control, the 80%, masses who are struggling for survival. It is no longer about, law and order. It is about survival. So one of the means through which economic empowerment of these micro, medium-sized enterprises can also be brought back on their foot is through zakat for economic empowerment and by providing seed capital for the micro, businesses through Islamic banking and using the micro Islamic banking, avenue to provide the resources for these people. Furthermore, under the short-term, support instrument, we also have what we call Qardun Hasana, benevolent loans. Benevolent loans. Either Islamic microfinance banks or Islamic banks always have this, product portfolios. This is a situation where, sadaqah, where that is non-compulsory, earns either profit from the gains the banks have made, or either, donations made by philanthropic Muslims to banks to support them. They can always create a portfolio for Qardun Hasana, benevolent loans, to be given out to the micro, the small enterprises. These are the people suffering. And don't forget, they are the ones contributing more than 90% to the economic activities of the country, both in the formal sector and in the informal sector combined together. The main objective here, if banks use their Qardun Hasana, which means they're giving out loan without any interest, and the banks will not be expecting any reward whatsoever from the beneficiaries. That is why it is called Qardun Hasana, benevolent loans given out to the poor people. The objective is to ensure that there is social justice, and they try to eliminate or eradicate poverty in the community. And to underscore the importance of the use of Qardun Hasana, Allah mentioned in about 6 places in the Quran the use of Qardun Hasana. If you look at Quran chapter 2, verse 45, verse 245, Quran chapter 5, verse 12, Quran chapter 57, verse 11, Quran chapter 57, verse 18, Quran chapter 64, verse 17, and Quran chapter 73, verse 20. Allah mentioned Qardun Hasana. Man yukridullah Qardun Hasana for yudaifahu lahu adha'afan kathira. Who is he that is going to loan to Allah a beautiful loan so that Allah can multiply the reward for him here and hereafter? So the third instrument that can also be used to support and strengthen the Qardun Hasana is sadaqat, sadaqah that we make, to banks. That is why you see some banks today, they have boxes which they put in strategic places in the banking hall. They say donation for charity or for humanity. Such donations that the banks have, this is the time they're supposed to bring them out and use them, for bailing out these micro, small, enterprises that are dying gradually, in the community. Because using this instrument, the banks are not expected, to say they are waiting for any reward or any gain from it. That is why it's called Qardun Hasana. The moment you say you are expecting A or B or C as return on what you have given out, it is no longer Qardun Hasana. This type of fund cannot be used in any purpose except with the consent of the client. Particularly if we look at one financial instrument in the Islamic banking, which is Murabaha. You know, the money for Murabaha that is in the kitty of the banks cannot be used outside what the investor or the depositor has made with the banks. But in a situation like what we have today, the banks can use them if their clients give them a written consent in order to be able to bail out the poor people, the cottages industry that are dying in our community today. Let me also move quickly to the medium-term instruments that can be used as a way out. You know, the financing of equipment, such as, you know, vehicles, buildings, and other sources of livelihood and trade finance, you know, can be accomplished through Murabaha instruments. Murabaha instruments is a working capital finance. It's a working capital finance. In other words, it is also referred to as cost plus financing. Cost plus financing in a situation where the seller reveals the cost of the commodity and the amount of profit to be charged in that commodity. Both the seller and the buyer will agree to the cost and the markup of the asset. In this case, if these businesses that are going down, somebody is running a business, he needs to, you know, procure an equipment to keep his business moving. But because of the COVID-19, access to such is difficult for him. He can approach Islamic banks that we have today. Under this principle, you know, table his DP, business plan, and let the banks look at them. And taking into cognizance the exigencies of the time and what we are going through today, the bank can provide the financing. In this case, okay, you need to get this equipment. Okay, the bank agrees. You don't need to bring in money. The bank will provide the equipment for you and tells you this equipment is, you know, is being sold in the market for maybe 5 million naira. We are going to buy it at 5 million naira. And because we are providing this service for you, we are also going to add a markup on it, and that is the cost plus for the services the bank is rendering, and also to sustain the bank. That we are going to give a markup on it, 5 million plus 1, you know, or 500,000, making 5,500,000. I'm just using that, just very simplistic. Using that very simplistic. And it is going to be structured over a period of time.
Dr. Shoaib.
The buyer will just, you know, say, let me put that money. He doesn't have the money. It will be structured over a period of time.
Before
and that is, you have it is also under Murabaha. Ijara wa is listening to own, you lease, and then when you start paying, you know, the rent, you know, on the leasing every month, and by the time the number of years calculated for you, you know, with your bank is due, after you pay everything, the bank will revert back to you. Also, we also have Mudaraba. Mudaraba here is a silent partnership between, you know, the businessman and then the bank. It involves you have the expertise, but you don't have the money. The bank can always, you know, partner with you, or the bank is the one that has, has the wherewithal, and then you are the one coming with the expertise. Whichever one it is, you know, partnership, which is going to be profit will be shared in accordance with your own contribution, and where there are losses, also the losses will be borne by the person who is providing, you know, the fund. Because of time, I may not go into details. Then coming down to round up, to come down to the long-term, you know, instrument that can be used. Under this, we have the Musharaka, which is joint venture. Musharaka, joint venture. You know, here, both the, you know, the investors and then the banks will share the profit and loss in accordance with their, you know, equity contributions. And not only that, we also have what we call Wakala investment deposits. Wakala investment deposits It's an instrument used by the depositors to instruct the wakil. The wakil in this case is the bank, that you have a fund, you want to invest for a long time. That fund you give to your bank and then you instruct the bank that the bank should invest this money for you in an ethical, businesses, and for a period of time in order to make profits. And again, the profit rate will be determined by the bank and agreed upon by you at the point of going into the Wakala investment deposit. And the last but not the least is the SNA. It's the SNA instrument. It's the SNA instrument is the project financing instrument, especially for those who are in the construction industries. You want to construct, you don't have the capital. Businesses nowadays are running them because they lack the capital. You have a contract given to you, but you don't have the resources. Visit the Islamic Bank. Put this thing on your table before them, and the Islamic Bank will look at it, and they will do their own, calculation, and then they will revert back to you. At that point, they will tell you, yes, we are going to construct for you, and based on this particular amount, and they equally make the profit known to you. The bank is not going to be the one to construct. The bank will also, contract it to a third party, who is the contractor that will construct. At the end of the day, when the business is done, you will be paying. By the time you finish your payment on that, the property will revert back, to you. It is also one instrument that one can use to at least support, businesses that can no longer, thrive or survive in this particular time. These opportunities are there. It is only that most people perhaps don't even understand the way they work, so they don't even know that they even exist. And again, the banks themselves, maybe because of the law governing them, they are not doing more of, promotions, for people to get more enlightened about the availability of this instrument for the betterment of our people in this particular time of COVID-19. In conclusion, before I forget, we have the Waqfu and then we have the Sukuk. The Waqfu is the Islamic bond. Usually is being given out by government. And of course, in Nigeria today, federal government has done two in 2018, 2019. And a lot of people who invested in the bond today are making profit, even though due to the economic situation, the value of the profit also has depreciated a little while, but it's also one instrument that is good for people who have idle money they want to invest. Such money can be made available for the improvement of the less privileged people. Waqf is an endowment, and which is much wider than zakat. People that have money can endow. Endowments by building good hospitals. One thing that COVID-19 has taught us today, it has exposed the decaying nature of our, hospitals, our clinics, owned by government and owned by local government or the state or federal government. This is the time for wealthy people, for wealthy Muslims to invest in that sector, to endow, build state-of-the-art hospitals for the less privileged people, so that situations like this, they know where to go without paying, or at a very highly subsidized, rate. These are some of the Islamic financial instruments that we can always use to, provide, a way out. And let me also mention the issue of takaful. Takaful, that is the Islamic insurance, different from the conventional insurance. Takaful is about participants, members coming together, making contributions to guarantee, themselves in case of any eventual risks or loss that may happen to their businesses or to their property in the long run. And one good thing with takaful in this instance is that part of the money the contributors are making will be invested in Wakala, investment deposits, so that it will generate more income for the participants in the takaful. And not only that, at the end of the year, where there is no claim at all by any participant, they will share in the profit that will be declared by the takaful company for that particular year. This is not something that happens in the conventional insurance industry. In the conventional insurance industry, you pay your premium, whether you have any claim or not, that money has gone forever to the insurance company. But in takaful, whatever premium you pay, at the end of the year, if you don't have any claim whatsoever, when the company is declaring dividend at the end of that year, they will share your own portion for you in accordance with your own equity contribution to the pool of that particular takaful in a company. So these are some of the instruments that we can always use to ensure that we provide succor or a way out for our people, either in the short term or in the medium term or in the long term. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا, Dr. Abdullah Shuaib. Thank you so much for this expose on Islamic finance. This not just is a lecture on COVID-19 and the intervention for MSME. I think it's a brief intro on the fundamentals of Islamic finance. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I forgot to mention to you that Dr. Shuaib has his PhD from Loughborough University in the UK and is a fellow of quite a number of institutes in Nigeria. You have his profile right there on the screen. Without much ado, I will invite the discussants to come and have the floor. The discussant, Barrister Teslim Akoshile. After the discussant, all the members of the attendees will have the opportunity to ask questions. You can drop your questions in the comment section. From there, we will help you to ask the question. We're not sure we'll be able to unmute your microphone to ask the question. But just as a comment, while Dr. Shuaib was giving his lecture, somebody mentioned that, you know what, I just felt the effect of COVID-19. I lost my job yesterday. We pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you succor and to help you to make the best of this time. It is indeed a trying time for you. And Dr. Akoshile has a degree in law. He's also a member of Chartered Islamic Finance Professional, Chartered Islamic Banker, certified by IOFI, certified Sharia advisor and auditor by IOFI, and also a member of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in the UK. As we have been informed, he currently works with Dutch Bank in Abuja. Dr. Barrister Akoshile, you are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank MULAN for this opportunity. I hope you can hear me clearly. Hello?
We can hear you, but there is a background noise coming from you. There is background noise coming from you, so that we can hear you.
Okay. For how many minutes will I be having the floor so that I can plan my my talk?
10 minutes, sir.
10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Bismillah wa salatu alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala man la nabiyya ba'da wa ba'd. وبشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to our co-attendees. First of all, I want to appreciate MULAN for this opportunity. And secondly, I also want to greet my teacher who has just finished delivering this wonderful expose according to the moderator. I've been called upon to give, to discuss, or to, will I say, add to what my teacher has just finished expounding on the topic, how Muslim professionals and businesses can survive the impact of COVID-19 through Islamic finance. Let me quickly start by giving the background that our Islam is a moderate religion. And when you look at the provisions of the Noble Quran, that is Quran 2, verse 143 in particular, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونُ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. And thus we have made you the justly balanced nation, or a community of moderation, a moderate nation, so that we can be witnesses upon mankind, and so that the messenger can be witnesses upon us. So when you look at the laws of Islam, Islam in all its ramifications, it's always advocates moderation in everything between spiritualism and materialism. Much as we should worship Allah, at the same time, we are not expected to shy away from partaking in what happens around us or partaking in material pursuits, as we'll see clearly stated in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, where Allah says, when it is time for prayer, we should hasten to prayer. And immediately after the prayer, we should disperse on the land to search for our survival, our daily life, our material, our earnings. In the same time, Islam, and in particular Islamic finance, moderates between business and social welfare. The same way Islam also moderates between public life and private life. So it is based on that I'm going to go into the second point, which is on the aspect of Islamic finance. When we look at Islamic finance, we can decide to broadly categorize it into two aspects. The first of it is the business aspect, and the second is the welfare aspect. So when you look at the business aspect, you talk about subsectors like banking, which you talk about subsectors like takaful, that is Islamic insurance. You talk about asset management and several others, which my teacher has run through, telling us what are these contracts that you see that can be adapted in banking as fair, can be adapted into the takaful sphere, can also be adapted for the asset management. Then you also talk about, so when you drill down into banking, which is the most dominant of Islamic finance, you talk about the trade contracts, the murabahas, the salam, the istisna that they have talked about. You talk about the lease aspects, which is the ijara. You talk about equity contracts, that's the musharaka, mudaraba. Then you talk about services like wakala and the rest of them. Then again, that is the first part of Islamic finance that has to do with business. Then the second arm of Islamic finance, which is more or less like the redistributive mechanism of Islam, which is also part of Islamic finance, and I'll explain why it is so. So under that, you have the zakat institutions, you have the waqf institutions, and then you have the Qard Hasan. Of course, Sadaqah too is part of it. So when you look at the point he has emphasized so much is on strengthening the SMEs, that's the small, medium, small enterprises, the startups and the rest of them. So the reality of the situation is that this particular sector can very well be strengthened through the distributive mechanisms of Islamic finance. We talk about plowing the zakat collection into assisting and strengthening economic activities. The same thing for waqf. It is reported that in the time past, waqf accounted for much of the public spending without impacting government spending on itself. So you talk about the endowment institutions and the benefits they have for the society. One of such very popular one is the waqf, the endowment of Usman bin Affan, that has survived for more than 1,400 years. Then when you also look at how Muslim professionals can survive the impact of COVID-19 through Islamic finance. So when you come to that, we start talking about first patronizing Islamic financial institutions. And when we talk about Islamic financial institutions, conventional banks are just a segment of them, like Jais Bank, Taj Bank, Sterling, Alternative, SunTrust, and the rest of them. So that is, these are just a section of Islamic financial institutions. So of course, there are Islamic financial institutions. We have microfinance institutions that run on Islamic commercial principles. And when we talk about implementation of the redistributive mechanism, which is the second arm of Islamic finance, that's the welfare arm, they are better operated or operationalized by microfinance institutions through creating products structured on WACF or creating products structured on Qard Hassan and the rest of them. I'm by no means saying conventional commercial banks like Jais Bank or Taj Bank cannot do that. Of course, that also can be done through funds like the unearned income that are expected to go to charity, like funds that funds that are generated from maybe penalties and the rest of them could decided to be channeled towards creating maybe a Qard Hassan fund for MSMEs and the rest of them. Then we'll talk about the how. The first of them is patronizing Islamic financial institutions in our financial or in our financing needs as a Muslim professionals. Because when we do that, the benefits might not be apparent in the short term, but in the long term, such as this situation, the benefits would realize the benefit of patronizing Islamic financial institutions. And I'm going to give you a practical example. The practical example is Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A has approached a conventional bank and Mr. B has approached an Islamic financial institution. And in this kind of scenario where you might want to request for a restructuring, once you do that with a conventional finance, you know, it's what we call time value of money. So by the time restructuring is done for you, the implication is that you end up paying more because its operation is founded on the institution of interest. But for Mr. B, who have approached an Islamic financial institution, for example, he has been financed to acquire maybe a machinery under the contract of Murabaha, which is a cost-plus financing. It is a trade-based contract or a trade-based product or a product structured on a trade contract. So the implication of a trade contract is that the financial institution purchases an asset and sells it to you. And then, yes, it could be argued that there is time value of money too in Islamic finance, but the scholars have said time value of money or time value of commodity is at the contracting stage and no more. So by the time the time value of money is factored at the contracting stage and the pricing for the financing item or the asset is fixed, that is the end of it. So even if it is restructured, that payment cannot increase even by a kobo because it's a sale contract. The bank has sold and its customer has bought. So there can be no shifting of goalposts. So you start appreciating Islamic finance from that perspective. Then on how we can survive COVID-19 through Islamic finance is just as I mentioned, patronizing Islamic financial institution. I've talked about the concept of interest. Then that is it's still under this. That's when you appreciate the Islamic finance outlook on money. Now, when you look at money, the concept of money, when you just oppose it, Islamic finance vis-a-vis the conventional finance, money is medium of exchange in the two models. Money is a store of value in the two models. Money is a means of production in the two models. But in the conventional model, money is a commodity which can be traded on. That is why when the customer comes for restructuring, which is forced to do for whatever reasons, such as this COVID-19 era, then the time value of money comes in. Because money is a commodity, it can be rented under the conventional finance. But under the Islamic finance, money cannot be rented. It is not a commodity, but it can only serve as a means of production. So that is the more reason why, even if you restructure, you don't get to pay more, except if the restructuring is brought about because of the misdemeanor of the customer. So in that regard, the bank is entitled to charge penalty, but such penalty cannot be earned by the bank because it goes to charity. Because it's just, the bank still has to charge that penalty as a punitive measure so that the bank is not taken for granted and so that the funds of the depositors are secured and the institution is not undermined. So one of the ways by which we can survive this era too is ensuring that whatever we do, we abstain from wastage. We not embark on a wastage of resources. If at all we must spend, it must be on essential things. And resources are scarce. That is the conventional economic perspective. But under the Islamic economic perspective, the resources are in abundance, but what it takes to go around is brotherhood and collaboration. It has been said that poverty cannot be eradicated through businesses, but poverty can only be eradicated through compassion, solidarity, and brotherhood that is embedded in the whole gamut of Islamic finance. Then part of it too is to invest in productive venture. As a matter of fact, investment in productive venture is something that is highly encouraged by the Sharia. So money is not meant to be kept unproductive, to be left unproductive, but money must be plowed into production from time to time. And from there, you pay the zakat, you pay the sadaqah, and the rest of them. Then we should also ensure we patronize halal businesses, because it has been proven that in situations like this, the halal businesses has shown their resilience to weather COVID-19, to weather situations like the COVID-19 scenario, among others. Part of it too is being proactive, being creative. We should not, that is what is expected of us as Muslims, to be proactive, to be creative. We should not be caught unawares, and we should be forward thinking. Because as a matter of fact, even when you read the Quran expects Muslims to be intellectuals, people that think. You hear the Quran describing the believers as ulul albab, people of intellect, ulul absar, people of foresight that think ahead. What are the likely situations that can come about? What are the likely mitigants for that? How can we position ourselves so that we are not caught unawares? So these are more expectations from us as Muslims, individually and collectively. And I can see I've spent over 10 minutes. Lastly, I feel MULAN on its own should start looking at how it can contribute to national development by pushing by pushing for the need to start working towards legal framework for Waqf, because Waqf has been proven to be very useful for welfare. Especially, it becomes more important in situations like this. And you see countries who have done this before now, you could see the benefits they are enjoying from it. An example is Turkey. You could see, despite all of this that is happening, Turkey still has more than enough to distribute to US, UK, China, Nigeria, and the rest of them, because of their strong Waqf institutions and the other social welfare institutions that they have on ground that is working for them. So
Barrister Koshile, I guess I may have to give you just 1 minute more to round up this. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, it's important for us to strengthen our social welfare institutions. And by that, I mean we have to start looking at how we are strengthening the welfare arm of Islamic finance, namely the Waqf institution, the Zakat institutions, among others, especially the microfinance, so that they can mainstream the Waqf. And that is a challenge for MULAN on how do we engage the stakeholders, the legislators, and the rest of them, such that we can start developing necessary legal framework that will strengthen the Waqf institutions, the Zakat institutions, among others. Thank you.
back. Yeah, thank you very much, Barrister Akoshile, for that very, very interesting summary. We've been able to place the issues here in perspective. Yeah, without taking much time, I would like to quickly go to the questions. I hope Dr. Shoaib is ready for the questions. Yeah, one of the I will take them in batches. I will take the first 1 to 5, then I'll take the last 5, and I think we can end it there. The first question, of course, was that the people want a copy of the lecture. Yeah, so we hope they can have that. We suppose note that that lecture is, like I called it, an expose, and I personally would be interested in a copy of the lecture as well. Yeah. Then the second question, somebody asks if she can pay zakat on behalf of late parents who never paid zakat while they were alive. Then number 3, how can, I think that Brother Taslim will also want to note this question. How does Islamic Bank provide for small-scale organizations, especially for the fact that they don't have guarantors and they don't have collateral? So what options are available for them in the Islamic Bank? And for Brother Taslim, somebody wanted to clarify. Are you saying that the Ibn Affan Waqf is still existing, the one that was available since that time? Then this one is for MULAN itself. I think the president may want to respond to this, or the discussant and also the lecturer can also lend their voice to it. On the exclusion of Muslims in government interventions, what should we do? What should be the role of MULAN? How do we mean government interventions? Like this COVID intervention fund, Agnes intervention fund. You find most of those funds are not Sharia compliant, they have interest. What should we be doing? What advocacy should we be doing to ensure that they structure products for us? Because if you say you want to want a financial inclusion, and your product and your intervention is excluding those Muslims, which form more than half of the Nigerian population, then means something has to be done. So what interventions can be put in place to help the Muslims? Okay. Another quick question from, say, can zakat be paid in advance, given the fact that it is based on the software a particular year, incubated on certain zakatable assets, and can I pay it in advance? So I just pay and I forget about it. Then also, in addition to that, can I pay it on my salaries? Yeah, so let's take those questions quickly. I'll start from Dr. Shoaib. You have about 5 minutes to quickly react to the questions. Then Brother Akoshile will take about 2 minutes to react. Thank you, Dr. Shoaib.
Thank you so much, our President. In fact, I forgot to mention that part of the Islamic finance window is the cooperative that we are sitting on. Because you rushed me, it just went off.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Let me just quickly respond to the first question. The copy will be graciously made available to the organizer. I've seen the posting on the chat. The organizers are trying to, centralize it. No problem. I will send my copy to them so that we can give it to everybody on the chat. That is part of our Sadaqat Jariyah that we are also, giving out in this particular time. Number 2, paying zakat on behalf of one's parent who never did because of lack of orientation, whatever. If the person, our parents, if they are left behind properties that are still very much in existence and having value, I mean, these are properties that are generating income. It is important that we begin to start now, to start paying the zakats. We do the assessment to know whether those income are up to the nisab and above, and then start paying. For the current year, the nisab is 1,110,440 naira. That is the nisab of zakatul mal for the ones that you are going to pay 2.5% upon. So what we pay as zakat is what we call miqdaru zakat, which is 2.5% or 1/48 of 1,110,440 naira. If that is the minimum least net balance of what you have in a year after taking out all your expenses. So the higher your net balance above of zakat, the higher will be the miqdaru zakat, the zakat rate that you pay. So the minimum is what I'm giving. But if the parent has whatever they left behind has been shared, by the beneficiaries, and they don't have anything that is bringing income, what we can do is to start giving out sadaqatul jariyah on their behalf. You dedicate, that is what we call awqaf. In fact, I have a lecture tomorrow by 2:45 p.m. organized by the Ummah online through the same Zoom. I'm talking about, awqaf. My lecture will be mainly on waqf. So I'm going to talk in detail about this. So for that person, you can do waqf endowment for that father or mother of yours, no matter how small it is. Something that you do that is not going to be a one-off. The thing will just be eaten off. But something that will last for a long period of time, 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you do it. There are so many. Because whatever they left behind has been shared and they are not generating any income. So you can do sadaqatun jariyah on their behalf. The third question, can zakat be paid in advance? Yes, I mentioned it in my course of my lecture. Varying circumstances like the one in which we are can warrant that Muslims that are very, very rich. In fact, we have individual Muslims that are very rich, more than 10 countries put together. That is to tell you how rich they are. So if they have that wealth, they can pay zakat of 2-3 years using the current nisab of today to pay. So even before the third, fourth year, their income will have again multiplied. So in essence, which again will warrant that they will even pay zakat again the following year. So there are established, authentic evidences in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions for paying zakat in advance. And then the last but not the least is with regards to salary. Yes, in my lecture which I did about 2 days ago under Ummah, I spoke about zakat extensively. I also mentioned salary earners are classified into 3 categories. We have different levels. Some of you may not be earning as much as Barrister Teslim is earning. He's a salary earner, but I know his salary is fat. We can't compare with a civil servant who calls himself or herself a director, and the take home, is maybe just one out of the many allowances that Barrister earns. So in this instance, if you are to compare salary earners, they are into 3 categories. Number 1 is a salary earner whose salary can hardly provide the basic necessities of life for him. Housing, food, and talk of health, not to talk of transportation. So if this person's salary is paid, before 10 days, the salary is already gone. The person is in trouble. Will not be borrowing. Such salary earners fall into the categories of asnafu zakat, beneficiaries. We have second salary earners that their salary is in and out. Salary, yes, can pay for his house rent, can provide food for him, can also manage to take him to his place of work without borrowing here and there. So he's not going to beg any person to eat or feed his family or pay his house rent or pay the children's whatever needs, but it is in and out. He has no any savings. He cannot do anything beyond that. That salary earner can also fall into the category of beneficiaries of zakat if the situation warrants. But the ruling by Islamic scholar is that such a salary earner, if the person struggles to now engage in cooperative, under job, and he himself and maybe about 20 people, and the Ajo, the cooperative, by the time he's collecting his own, what comes to him is about 1.2 million naira. The juristic verdict on that is that on that Ajo, we are going to weigh it. Is it in line with the NISAB? If it is yes, he must pay 2.5% on that Ajo he has collected, not on the salary. That is the ruling. But if the money is not up to the NISAB of zakat, there's no zakat on it. Then the third salary earners are the people like my barrister and people like me and barrister. Yes, that our pay can conveniently pay for our accommodation, pay for our children's school fees, do so many other basic things. And we still have some leftover, which we used to support, dependents and families and brothers in Islam and sisters here and there. Obviously, people like that, and even our own seniors, cannot, with all sense of modesty, tell me as a zakat, expert, because my PhD is on zakat, that is not zakatable. That is not zakatable because the amount is paying on the school fees of his children. Who put it? La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah has not put a burden on you because the Quran is so emphatic. He says, "Wafi amwalihim haqqun lisaili wal mahrum." In their wealth is the right of Allah and the right of the beneficiary of zakat. Those who will be very bold to ask, and those because of modesty will not be able to ask. But they have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to collect it. So people like that must pay zakat, even though they are salary earners. They must pay zakat. Professionals, lawyers, your own group, barrister, your group, starting from yourself and your president and the secretary and others down. If they should be, doing cases for their clients or doing, secretary jobs for their companies, signature bonus, and you collect your signature bonus by 5 million at a go, instant time, immediately you must pay zakat. You don't have to wait 12 months because there are rulings that support that argument. So you pay. So professionals like that, they can pay zakat. Salary earners that are earning fat, they can pay zakat without waiting, till the end of the. Otherwise, because one of the things we saw is that most people don't have financial discipline. They don't have financial discipline. He may say, okay, I will do it. Before he knows it, he has indulged in so many expenses here and there, and he has finished the money. By the time he says, come and pay zakat, say, no, there's no leftover. It is the right of Allah. It is the right of the poor people. You must be sensitive and must be very, very, conscious of this part. Otherwise, we don't want Allah to take it from the goodness of our work on Yom Al-Qiyamah. So those are the answers to the questions asked. Allah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Barrister Koshile. You may want to respond quickly, I said within 2 minutes, so that, yeah. Barrister Kosim, could you please unmute Barrister Koshile? That's important. Barrister Kosim, are you still with us?
Yes, he needs to do that.
Okay, Mr. Daman.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Like my teacher said, the two of us might be zakatable, but there is levels. When the alert comes in, some will just come in like a small pion, and then some alerts are very ground shaking. So I think I will leave it at that. Then first question on whether the work of Usman bin Affan is still subsisting. Yes, it is still subsisting to date. That's more than 1,400 years old. Then on how does Islamic Finance, how does Islamic Financial Institution provide for small-scale institutions? Well, there are supposed to be CBN interventions for that, but unfortunately, the Nigerian Muslim Ummah has not been living up to expectation in terms of doing what is expected of it. And as the saying goes that just like the court is not a Father Christmas, unfortunately, the FG is not a Father Christmas. Even if it is your right, and we refuse to ask for it or to campaign for it, we might not get it. So then, before I finish on that, I just quickly want to align with my teacher by saying that there is a need to expand the frontiers of generation of zakat. The salary earners need to start, because a lot of salary earners actually give for zakat. So by the time we expand the frontiers for zakat generation, we'll be having more funds to finance the MSMEs through the WACF institutions, through the Qard Hassan institutions, like a very good template that we can start looking at, especially for zero interest, is a look at Akwat of Pakistan. There is an institution like that, they call them Akwat in Pakistan. They operate this Qard Hassan benevolent loan system. So it's a lesson that we need to start studying and looking at how we are going to implement them here in Nigeria. So I will advise that we work more on how we can expand the frontiers to generate more funds for our welfare institutions so that we can provide more for our MSMEs, because the reality is that the commercial banks might not be able to give the MSMEs what they expect in terms of funding, pricing, and the not because they don't want to, but because of the regulatory regimes, guidelines from regulators and the rest of them. So the reality, the practical reality is that we need to start working on strengthening our welfare institutions so that they can do more for our MSMEs, while at the same time we vigorously pursue and make a case for more recognition of Islamic financial institutions. And we also struggle to create Islamic finance ecosystem within our own financial system. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Barrister Akoshile. So, Barrister Kosim, you can mute Barrister Akoshile. I think there are a few noises coming from his background now. Yeah, thank you so much. And I also want to quickly add that, like the guest speaker said, the cooperatives, they have a very, very big role to play in this. And I think the Muslim Ummah will ignore the non-interest cooperatives at our peril. That is just the sincere truth. As of today, the only organization, the only Islamic finance organization that consistently gives out Qard Hassana is the Islamic Cooperative. In fact, our major product, which constitutes about 75% or more of our payout, is Qard Hassana. So if the MSMEs really want to benefit from such products, they should look in the direction of the zero interest cooperatives. Go and join them, go and be a part of them. People get as much as 10 million naira in loans without paying a single dime in interest. So I think it's a key area, and a lot of MULAN members are with us anyway. Yeah, so I think it's an important area we need to look into. Yeah, Dr. Abdullahi, some people said they want to get details of the lecture for tomorrow. So you may please just share that, the Zoom details, copy and share in the comment section. So at this point, I also still want to invite the president. We missed his speech at the start. I hope he's very much available now to give us.
I'm available.
Yeah, thank you very much, President. This is your show. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your show, and
yes,
you are welcome. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
In fact, I should thank you so much, and I should thank the secretary too for bringing me this event up. Brother Abdullahi is a known name. The same thing with Akosile. I don't think anybody will hear these names and will not want to listen. I missed the first speech. I could not speak at the first time because a lot of people were calling me, asking me about the details. And when they call the president, the thing will just snap me up. So that's why I could not make the speech. What I can say now is thank you for the beautiful presentation. I so much thank you. And MULAN is trying to collaborate with the Kano WACF Foundation. There is a foundation in Kano. I have even delivered a paper on WACF there. And MULAN is trying to collaborate with them to look at some impediments, legal impediments that will not make WACF to be realistic in Nigeria. Inshallah, we'll be on our toes to make sure that those things are done with. I thank you so much. I thank all the listeners. I thank the presenters. And may Almighty Allah reward you abundantly. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Yeah, Professor Adeleke, before you leave, there's something I want you to respond to. Yeah, you said currently, and the guest speaker also mentioned it. Currently, there are several government interventions that excludes the Muslims. So what will MULAN do clearly in helping?
The answer is simple. We are an offshoot of Nigerian Bar Association.
From all of those interventions.
Several years ago, when we wanted to start this MULAN, most of the Muslim senior advocates kicked against it. It is now that they are just realizing the necessity to have MULAN in place. And when we want to come out to do something, the government always tells us that MBA is what we know, Nigerian Bar Association. And to make the matter worse, the Christians have two organizations. We have Catholic Lawyers Association in Nigeria, and we have a class fund. So there are two groups for the Christians. MULAN is one. So the government is going with three. So that's why the government does not want to recognize any other one except the Nigerian Bar Association. So that's what we are working towards. By the time we are recognized as a Muslim association, but when it comes to wanting to treat us separately, it is difficult. Yeah. Because Nigerian Bar Association will come out as one.
Okay, Prof.
And there is no two bars.
Prof, I think here, it may not be necessarily in the name of MULAN, but if MULAN pushes it and you go through it as an advocacy or as a class action or as a legal action from one of your most reputable chambers, I think that can be an avenue to take the fight. It's just an advice I want you to look into critically.
I take the hint. But one of those things, like you have said, there are some organizations, there are some civil society groups that MULAN is driving, but not in the name of MULAN. But those who are driving these organizations, are MULAN members.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
We encourage them to do what you have just suggested.
That's very good. That's exactly what we are saying. So we will want that. Yeah. So we will liaise with you at the end of this training and see how we can take that up. I will call on Barrister Koshile and Dr. Shuaib, and we will find a collaborative way forward from this. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I want to also thank all the attendees. At this juncture, I will invite the Secretary General of MULAN, Malam Ismail Alashan, to give us the vote of thanks. Malam Ismail, are you here with us?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum
salam. Let me quickly say that alhamdulillah, that this webinar has come to an end and has been a very successful outing. My job, I will borrow the words of one of our leaders, who incidentally is the Secretary General of the Umbrella Islamic Organization, Professor Loide, to say that my job, my task is being made very, very simple. Yes, it is a duty that we owe to our Deen to be of use to ourselves, to encourage brotherhood, and the speakers and all the moderator, the discussant, the host too, they've all been very, very wonderful in ensuring and cooperating to ensure that this brotherhood that Islam enjoys is furthered. I just want to say all of us who participated, including those who are expecting the materials, so many people could not join. We hope that next time we're going to have a larger platform for more people to join than today. because so many people are still calling and say they wanted to join. They can't join, but we have reached the maximum we can take. I thank, on behalf of MULAN, I thank all of you and appreciate all you all, and hope that when next we call on you, and that's very, very soon, you all come out and participate in the program. May Allah reward all of you and bless all of us in this very holy month of Ramadan. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi
wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I want to thank MULAN for organizing this platform as a way of their own contribution to supporting and assisting people who are badly affected, like the brother you mentioned who just lost his job, just recently. You can maybe private chat me or call me behind, so that we can see what we can do in terms of what kind of support can be provided for that brother, so that what has happened.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Barrister Kosim.
There is no doubt Islamic finance and surely Islamic economics, in view of its philosophical foundation, is the way forward for the world. There is no doubt about that. And to add a credence to that is the fact that even the EU is looking towards issuing sukuk, musharaka for infrastructure and the other. So it's important for us to try to key into Islamic finance, know about it, participate in it, and promote it. Thank you.
Yeah, so on behalf of the Muslim Lawyers Association of Nigeria, most especially our president, Professor Abdurrahim Adeleke, and the entire ESCO and members of MULAN, we say a very big thank you to you all for being a part of this lecture. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik. Anashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayka. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum.
With
this, we come to the end of the program. We appreciate everybody for attending. So we all can say bye-bye before we end the meeting.
So you can mute